It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Thanksgiving Day, November 28th. I'm Wendy Corr, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, even today, Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols takes you deeper into the stories that matter and keeps up with the news, weather, and sports in your part of Wyoming. Just tune into cowboystatedaily.com and join the conversation. A handful of Republican lawmakers are looking to revive a bill that would ban sanctuary cities and counties in Wyoming. The effort picked up steam after Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement said Tuesday that the Teton County Sheriff's Office has let 103 illegal immigrants who were in the local jail slip away before ICE could get them in the past 21 months. But Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the sanctuary city label doesn't apply in this case.
According to the Jackson mayor and the Teton County Commission chairman, neither of those subdivisions is considered sanctuary. They both said, no, we're not sanctuary. We're not passing regulations to restrict officials from working with ICE. So the people in Jackson and Teton County are not sure if this bill would even apply to them.
New Wyoming Freedom Caucus Chair Representative Rachel Rodriguez-Williams said she and others aligned with the group are committed to pro-security immigration efforts in Wyoming. A bill that would take away the tax-exempt status of nonprofit organizations that support terrorists in America is quickly moving through Congress with Representative Harriet Hageman's support. If the bill passes into law, it would allow the U.S. Treasury Secretary to label a group as terrorist supporting if it's determined to have provided material support or resources to a terrorist group within the past 3 years. Cowboy State Daily's Leo Wolfson has the story.
Some people who are concerned about this bill is way too broad of powers. Hageman told me on Monday she's not concerned about that, and she thinks it's very clear what is and what is not considered a terrorist organization. Other groups, like the Wyoming Democratic Party, expressed concern about this bill and urged their followers on Facebook to call Hageman and vote against it. She still voted to support it last week. The bill passed the House and now is moving to the Senate.
The IRS defines a terrorist organization as a group that's designated or identified as supporting or engaging in terrorist activity. Residents in Sheridan and Casper don't need to look any further than out their front windows to catch the Thanksgiving spirit. Both cities have huge populations of urban wild turkeys. And at least for now, the turkeys in both cities are safe from coming off the streets and onto dinner tables, although for the Sheridan wild turkeys, that might eventually change. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that the idea of urban wild turkey hunting is being floated around there.
Casper and Sheridan are both known for having a lot of urban turkeys. They had like a special archery season in town for deer in Sheridan. They're kind of kicking around the idea of maybe doing the same thing with turkeys, but they're not sure yet. They don't want to get rid of the turkeys altogether, but they're just so many are starting to pile into town and they're starting to get complaints about them.
Well, eating wild turkey for Thanksgiving is an option Wyoming residents and their visitors can easily enjoy with an over-the-counter license outside of urban areas. But Cowboy State Daily's Jackie Dorothy points out that you shouldn't expect preparing that succulent bird to be as easy as thawing out a frozen butterball.
When you have a wild turkey, we are talking it's game meat. So you can't just pop it in the oven and expect it to taste the same as the one you get from the supermarket. You are going to have to marinate it overnight for 2 days at max is what they're suggesting. The recommendation I've seen is put it in a crock pot, boil the meat off. That way you're not dealing with the bones. The hunter I spoke to, John Bass, he has been hunting turkeys for 30 years, and this is the way he said that is the best way to cook your wild turkey.
Bass said it's important to prepare this wild bird differently from the domestic turkey you catch in the local grocery store. It'll take a couple of days of marinating, but he said it's well worth the extra effort to tenderize the wild meat. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Well, I've got some good news, especially when it comes to travel. While there still will be some slick spots, especially over the mountain passes and along the I-80 corridor, overall weather for this Thanksgiving is just going to be kind of windy and chilly. Brisk northwest winds will be noted, and temperatures in most areas of the state won't get out of the 30s today. If there's anyone that might get a little bit of snow, it'll be up in the far northern parts of the state. Up along the Montana-Wyoming border, some snow flurries and snow showers will be around today, tonight, and again tomorrow. Nothing heavy, but up along that I-90 corridor near the Montana line, in the mountains of northern Wyoming, a few flurries. Otherwise, chilly elsewhere. Brisk northwest winds and kind of a similar pattern will take us into the weekend.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 15 seconds with more news.
Open enrollment is here. Discover a range of low-cost plans from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. Shop now to find the best option for you. Online, in town, in touch. We're right around the corner. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. What's your plan?
Well, since they live right up against a mountain on the edge of Estes Park, Colorado, Chris and Jim Fisher-Keller are used to having wildlife around. But a huge black bear's visit to their front porch at 3 a.m. one morning rattled them. And Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that a few days later, that same bear tried to chomp one of the 9 Ring cameras the couple has set up around their property to capture wildlife videos.
They got footage of 3 mountain lions hanging out. They got hysterical footage of an elk sneezing on one of their cameras. They also got footage of a huge black bear putting its mouth over the camera like it's trying to eat it. They couldn't figure out why, but then they put 2 and 2 together and they realized the husband had been walking around changing batteries and he had the stuff in his pocket and he realized that same pocket had dog treats in it. The bear had smelled the residue from the dog treats on the camera and that's what made him try to eat the cameras.
Despite a couple of close encounters with bears, Fisher-Keller said she isn't afraid of them, just cautiously respectful. She is glad that, unlike Wyoming, Colorado doesn't have grizzlies. Well, a man from Ethity pleaded guilty Tuesday to stabbing a woman to death on the Wind River Indian Reservation. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that 37-year-old Kevin Joseph Mendables changed his plea Tuesday before U.S. District Court Judge Kelly Rankin in Casper in the February 25th death of Inez Whiteman.
He was accused of first-degree murder for killing Inez Whiteman, and her death was 9 days after he pleaded guilty to abusing a different woman. So he pleaded guilty, and he's set to be sentenced early next year, probably to life in prison.
Mendables was charged federally because the federal court system handles felony-level crimes involving tribal members that happen on the Wind River Indian Reservation. Well, horse racing has been growing at a galloping pace in Wyoming, and next summer the sport will take another giant leap. Thunder Plains Park, a new mile-long, 80-foot-wide flat horse track, will open in Cheyenne next summer. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that it's the first new track built in Wyoming since the 1980s and the state's first mile-long track. The Wyoming Gaming Commission gave approval for the track at its meeting last week.
Spoke to Ryan Clements, the co-founder of the Cowboy Racing Group that's kind of starting and leading the project. And he said it's a very exciting opportunity to have a new racetrack come to Wyoming. Generally, across the board, horse racing is not a big profitable industry. These tracks usually rely on off-track betting and gambling to kind of actually bring in the real money and the real proceeds.
Thunder Plains will host its first race day on August 1st, 2025, and 16 total race days next summer. And the problem with gobs of gooey post-Thanksgiving grease is that once it enters drain pipes, it doesn't stay gooey for long. That grease can set up and sink drains and sewer pipes, turning the day after Thanksgiving into what plumbers around Wyoming have dubbed Brown Friday. That's according to Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines.
People, they cook, they end up with copious amounts of grease. At the end of the cooking process, they don't know what to do with it, so they just tip the pan up and pour it down the drain. And they said it might look all liquidy and nice going in, but what happens is it goes down into the pipes, basically turns into cement, blocks everything up. Next day, people have pipes exploding, drains not working. So the lesson is, unless you want a big plumbing bill, put your grease in a jar or something, get rid of it, don't pour it down the drain, because that's what will make your Friday a Brown Friday.
Brown Friday is widely recognized by plumbers across the country as their busiest day of the year, and it can be a bane to many homeowners. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to drop in on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake Nichols, Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in on this Thanksgiving Day. We are taking tomorrow off. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.